The Golden Age arc is like 60 chapters, and I just read the next 8. So it ends the Golden Age chapters, I believe. Hey everyone, hi. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about the Golden Age chapters, which is different from the arc, I believe. The Golden Age chapters in Berserk, which I am excited to talk about. So if you are new to my channel, then hi, welcome. If you have no idea what I just talked about, this is a reading channel. This channel documents all of my passions when it comes to books and reading, and manga is one of them. I'm reading a lot more manga than I once did, and it's been a really fun component or accessory or addition. That's probably the word I was looking for, addition to my reading. And if you're into that, not just manga, but reading in general, I would encourage you to subscribe and stick around. Without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So what I'm actually reviewing is the Guts backstory, his childhood story. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I think this is one of the things that people were trigger warning me about the most. And we're going to get into that. So hopefully I can summarize in brief, though I am not really that brief. I'll be able to summarize in brief the backstory, and then I can talk about the major themes, where I think it's going, and a comparison piece of literature that I wanted to bring up. So, Guts' backstory is a tragic thing. We actually see him, we come upon Guts as a mere babe, just born, and the scene is haunting because it's like corpses everywhere. There's death, and then all of a sudden, amid that death is life, which is actually kind of metaphorical as well. And there is, let me see the character's name, Shishu, this woman, Gambino's wife, who sees this baby, they hear the baby's cries, and she wants to rescue this child who is basically born from death. That's the concept, I feel like, is really being brought across. And the really fascinating thing is, I don't know, it's a really interesting contrast in that there's even a conflict between her and Gambino, right? Gambino, yes. Her husband, because he doesn't want the baby. He thinks that the baby is cursed, because there's who survives this death and destruction? What kind of cursed child will survive this death and destruction? And then the misery continues. So there's this baby born among corpses and is still alive under his mom's dead corpse, something like that. It's very dark. And then we get to the next stage of misery and sadness in that Shishu ends up dying. And so it's the only person that ever loved Guts as a child is now dead. And Gambino does raise him, but there's always this distance between Gambino and Guts, because it's you get this sense from what I'm remembering, because I did read it a bit ago, maybe a week and a half ago, but you get this sense that Gambino he doesn't have a father, what we would consider a loving, fatherly kind of love towards Guts in any way, shape, or form. It's really he is training him to be a soldier, he's training him to be a man, he's raising him to be a man, but there isn't that paternal love that someone might have for a child that is essentially his own. But maybe, but there's always this gap, this distance between their relationship. And after Shishu dies, now Guts is really being raised by Gambino, who is a part of a mercenary group, a fighting group. This world that Guts lives in is all full of death, destruction, sadness, intensity. And there's like a lot of like warring sides together, capturing different things. And so there's kind of like always battles and war going on of some kind. Some of it is more not metaphysical, but some of it is more like with monsters and true conjurings of horror and darkness, and some of it is just like sword fights with men on horses. And so it's got a range of the type of fighting, but there always is fighting at the end of it all. And I think the part that most people, and like if skip ahead, please, if you were like, I don't want to be triggered by this, but I think the thing that most triggered most, oh my goodness, I have a hair. It's nothing like getting a hair in one's mouth. So what happens, and this is like the most triggering, I think, thing that is just but one of the people that Gambino works with basically wants to possess and wants to have this person wants to assault young Guts. And so he actually asks if Guts's body can be sold. He asks Gambino if Guts's body can be sold to him for the night, and all that implies. And there is, it does show this assault, and it's terrible. And you can understand that this was, it's truly traumatizing. It's like another traumatizing moment. So not only is Guts born of death, but the only person that loved him, his mother, is dead. He has a father that is not really a father, is not paternal in any way. And his father is the one that sells his own body, like Guts's body, to another person when Guts is still a child, to another person for the night. So, lots and lots and lots of darkness. And even after this, in a lot of ways, you kind of see Guts get revenge because he ends up killing the person that assaults him, and he ends up sort of accidentally killing Gambino, while also in this world of, it's a child growing up in a world of men in a world of war. So there is no warm and fuzzy feelings with Guts at all. And ultimately, he ends up setting out on his own and being a swordsman of his own and getting a reputation. And I forget, but he somehow falls in with Griffith, who was, we saw Griffith before as this demagogue, as this godlike figure who is now immortal and evil and in this other flipped world that the sculptural face head thing had taken Guts and the Count's daughter too. So Griffith is this evil character, but obviously, as we have found out now, Griffith and Guts have this backstory, and Griffith wants Guts. And it's so funny because the translation that I read, I think really the next big thing that happened, I know that Guts was sick for a while, and one of the female characters, which we don't get a lot of female characters in this so far. We get some, but they're not playing big roles. But she ends up saving Guts's life by keeping his body warm with her own body temperature, and she's kind of Griffith's second person in the order of things, or they have a close friendship. I'm not exactly sure. But really the next sort of big thing that happens is that Guts and Griffith fight off in a duel. And Griffith basically says that if Griffith wins, you are mine. I own you. I possess you. You belong to me. And I think going back to my translation moment, I was it's kind of interesting because Guts takes it as an erotic come on. He was what do you think I am, gay? And I was just I don't know. There was something about it, I understood the sentiment of it, but I felt the age of the translation kind of came out as, it was almost humorous, it was translated in the 90s or something, because of the way it comes off. Anyways, it comes off like Guts is slightly homophobic, and I feel like it could have come off a little bit differently. I don't know. I don't know why that bugged me, but it just seems like an updated translation would have translated that a bit more with a bit more nuance. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but as they're fighting, I mean, so then Griffith wins, like hands down, with, with flying colors. Griffith wins. And Griffith is like gorgeous. Like, let's just talk about Griffith's character's design. Like, he reminds me most of like Legolas in the movie Lord of the Rings. It's just these effeminate, beautiful features. He looks almost elfin with this long hair, and he's like long and lean and really wields like a sword with elegance. The sense that you get, it's a sword with elegance, that he wields a sword with elegance, and he beats Guts like so hard, like really without even trying in that. And it feels like Guts is a brute, that he's like this brute really trying to like with force like chop and slice and kill people just with like unadorned action almost. And it feels like Griffith actually has strategy and finesse, and you get this sense even within the art. And by the way, the art has gotten a lot better. Like you can see the improvements already, which is really quite nice. So, Griffith seems more like light on his feet and playful and joyous. And even there's this moment where another fight is going down. This is like after Griffith wins and he essentially like owns Guts. That there was like some fights that go down, and Griffith ends up deciding to like save Guts's life. Like he ends up prioritizing Guts's life over others. And it was really interesting because by this point, with this really just intense, tragic backstory, you get that nobody besides Shishu, like besides Guts's mother, who's not even his birth mother, that nobody's fought for him, nobody stood up for him, nobody has been on his side or has loved him unconditionally in the way that like every person deserves. And that he really has he carries a lot of that trauma within him, and that maybe the reason why he's sort of killing things with brute force and sort of unabashedly without any discernment is because of the trauma that he carries with him. And, who knows, maybe he is cursed. I don't know. So, there's all of this going on. And then you have Griffith, who's really interested in Guts, not necessarily, you could say because Guts has a lot of potential, but essentially Griffith sees something a bit more. I think it's more than potential. Maybe Griffith sees how unloved, I don't know, my guess, sees how unloved Guts is, and like really extends that hand of love or friendship belonging to Guts, because Griffith knows that Guts has never had that in his life. And it's quite interesting. So as we get to the end of the arc, which I actually read more recently and I'll be able to recount to you a little bit better, what's interesting is that we see Guts being invited to belong. So after a battle, everyone, people who have survived, they're back at their camp, for lack of a better term, for my part, and they're celebrating, and they want Guts to be there with them, and he wants to be by himself. And so he really is this loner, but we as readers have understood the trauma of his backstory, where he wants to push people away and he doesn't want to be a part of a group. And he, I think, doesn't maybe even feel like that he has the right to be a part of a group. And Griffith is like constantly pushing past that. And by the end of these chapters, like even Griffith and Guts get into like a water fight that's really playful and joyful and joyous and really wonderful. And you can see that hard exterior start to break. You can see the exterior that Guts has put around him so that he doesn't get hurt anymore, and that he's no longer harmed both physically and emotionally. that you can see it starting to crack. And you actually see Guts have fun for the first time. And considering that, we already went through all of this backstory with him, it was really nice to see Guts like let go a little bit, have fun. And you start to see the friendship between Guts and Griffith. You can see their friendships start to form. And so it's really interesting. I saw very strong themes of belonging and the way that trauma informs your reality and the way that you present to the world. And I quite liked it. It is heavy, but it's an interesting, really thought-provoking reading. And y'all are right, the art is getting a lot better, and it's a lot more, I don't know, it's definitely it's more finesse and has a lot more artistic merit. The sort of earlier chapters, I was just like, what is this? Not that it was bad, it's just that sometimes things were off. I did a whole short about it, that sometimes the art is a little bit off. You can see how things are getting better. So, I don't know, it's been good. There is a lot of fighting, a lot of gore, and I just sort of take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. And I'm excited to see where this is going to go next. So I was going to say that for people, this reminds me of actually like two reads. One of which is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Hanya Yanagihara, in the book A Little Life, creates this strong friend group of 4 young men who are friends living in a city. I think she might leave everything kind of nameless and dateless, but you can kind of get a sense of the time period it's in, and that we might be in sort of the northeast somewhere, and that we're maybe in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And with this friend group, the time period and place are really not necessary to know. But within this friend group, she starts to focus in on this character named Jude. And Jude has one of the most brutal, sad, discouraging, and also like she does not shy, Hanya Yanagihara does not shy away from like the vivid details of the horrible, brute, terrible, disgusting in some ways backstory that Jude lives through. And it is really, 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 really sad. And as she's kind of moving in and out of present time and past events, we as readers, I as a reader was able to really understand why Jude was the way that he was and what informed my decisions about how I thought about him, why he earned my compassion. And ultimately, like, it was one of those characters that just tore your heart apart. So, as much as Guts' backstory is really tough, part of me feels like, I don't know, like I've really kind of toughened up. Because, not toughened up, but, like some certain things, like I feel like I've read before in Guts' backstory that also mirrors the story of Jude in A Little Life. But Jude's is actually like 10,000 times worse than Guts's, if you could actually even imagine that. So, yeah, so so it did remind me of that, even down to like the like most atrocious like childhood traumas that I could think of in Guts's backstory that happened. Like Jude has it way worse. So I want to say that if you are like, I don't know, like, not that you like, but like if maybe you have an interest in hard-hitting, really, really deeply emotional, sad stories that help inform who a person is and the darkness they carry with them, why they carry that darkness. In a lot of ways, it's truly toying with the question of why do bad things happen to good people, or like why do bad things happen to people, and what happens to that person when bad things have happened to them. It's really like using that. And I think when we even think of like good people, we think also we could substitute that for innocent people being children. So why do bad things happen to children who don't deserve it? And I think that like Guts and his backstory in Berserk asks that question in a really interesting way. And also Hanya Yanagihara's A Little Life asks that in a very particular way. Also, it reminded me of a book that I haven't finished. I am going to go cycle back around, but it's The Persian Boy by Mary Renault. And in The Persian Boy, one of the very first scenes is a young boy being turned into a eunuch, and also starting out his life as a eunuch and what that could have possibly been like. And then our main character, this eunuch, ends up being a companion to Alexander the Great. So, but the first section is so brutal, and it so informs who that character is moving forward. So, you know, I feel like it's like, I want to say like, I'm no stranger to like this kind of trauma that thus sort of shapes a bigger story and will sometimes inform decisions and is a real shaping point for the character. But I also understand why so many of y'all were warning me off, because yeah, I mean, it's really kind of y'all to warn me about just the horrors of this, of that kind, reading that kind of backstory. It is like super difficult. But it also sometimes really informs and really grows. Like it really can really shape a very, 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 very interesting character. And I think that, you know, at least in Berserk, it's shaped this really interesting character. And I'm really interested to see if Guts finds happiness, or if he's able to stave off that curse, and what happened to him in Griffith. And I'm excited to get deeper into this world, because it is a fascinating world. Even though I'm really glad that I read that first arc, this Golden Age, the 8 chapters in the first Golden Age arc, was so interesting. To me, it was like 10 times better than the actual first arc, and I kind of wish we would have started with this one and moved towards other things. But I mean, it is a nice shaping of everything, because now you know that something has happened between Guts and Griffith, and like we have something to look forward to, like what happens and what happened to Guts and Griffith, and why were they torn apart, and how did Griffith get to the place that he's at, especially considering that he seems like rather kind-hearted. And then also, like, I'm missing my friend Puck. I just am. So it's been really an interesting journey thus far, and I'm excited. I am really excited to continue. And yeah, you'll have to tell me, like, what you thought of these 8 chapters, and had you read anything like it before, or was it totally unique to the things that you've read? It's interestingly it reminds me of literature, you know. These 8 chapters in Berserk remind me of books, like physical books, not graphic novels or other manga that I read. Not that I'm a manga expert in the least, but it reminds me of novels that I've read. And the comparisons to novel writing is actually really kind of surprising to me. And also, it doesn't remind me of any kind of graphic novel. Not that I'm an expert in that area at all, but it doesn't remind me of the graphic novel reading that I've done. So it is, in its own way, it stands alone in the medium of manga is bringing together such a fascinating and brutal backstory and character that I have not yet seen in this way where you bring words and pictures together. And also, I'm just surprised that it reminds me so much of like literature, of like other things that I've read, rather than like, it doesn't even remind me of like movies that I've watched or anything. It's just, it really kind of stands alone as its own unique thing. And I quite like that. So, yeah, you'll have to tell me, what has kept you reading Berserk even when the going gets tough? Like, what about it keeps you going? I don't know if I could answer that myself. So I'm asking you a question I'm not sure I can answer on my own. I do find it intriguing. I find the whole thing very intriguing and very engaging in its own way. So, and I'm actually quite strangely, weirdly attached to Guts, and I want to know more about his life, even though it's super brutal. So anyways, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!